Good morning, everyone. We're just going to do a sound check to make sure that our Zoom participants can hear us. And Jake, can you hear us?
Good morning, Sam. Yes, we can hear you in the Zoom room loud and clear.
Okay, great. Okay. Let me just check the Granicus feed. Okay, the Granicus feed is working. So, Chair Crandall, we will be ready to begin when you are.
So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 26th Board of Supervisors meeting. And I don't have the... And we'll call this meeting to order. I didn't see it. Damn. And open it up for a moment of silence. And we will just do a moment of silence for all the families who are dealing with, because it's National Victims Week, who are dealing with the problems that surround victimhood and whatnot, because there's a lot of trauma that descends from that after the fact, and if you're not helping people in that trauma, then it continues and perpetuates and puts people in a mode to where they have to deal with it a different way. So we'll have our moment of silence there. Vice Chair Scott, can you lead us in the pledge?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. With that, move on to item 4, consideration of extra items not appearing on the posted agenda. Does anybody have any of those to bring forward? Not seeing anyone, so let's move on to consent agenda. Consent agenda is items that are non-controversial and that we pass in one motion. And if you'd like to pull for discussion later, then I'll open it up for the board to see if there is one. Supervisor Sabatier?
Apologize for that. I wanted to see if we could pull item 5.2 for further discussion.
Item 5.2. Are there any others? I'll open it up to the public in case there's anyone that wants to pull something from the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the chambers that would like to pull something from the consent agenda? And I will look on the participants list. Not seeing any hands up, so I'll bring it back to the Board of Supervisors for action.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve items 5.1 and 5.3 through 5.9 from the consent agenda.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And so with our timed items, let's see, we are at 9:04. So, do you think 7.3 can go pretty quick?
We have 30 seconds or so.
30 seconds, you said? Yeah, we'll just. Oh, he's not going to last.
It's not going to last.
And it looks like we're at our 9:05, which is the pet of the week. And so with that, we will invite you up and let you give some information about our friend there.
Good morning. My name is Haley Del Fiorentino. I'm an animal control officer at Lake County Animal Care and Control. With me today is Dozer. I named him that because he comes in like a wrecking ball. He's between 1 and 2 years old. He's a black pit mix, and he's a very sweet boy. Loves to play with just about any toy you can give him. I had him out in the play yard for about an hour this morning. He's still full of energy. We're recommending that he go to a very active family with older children. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, he couldn't handle that. He couldn't handle another minute, I don't think. So we are at our 9:06 public input. If there's anyone that would like to come and speak on an item that is not on the agenda, is there any public input, Kimberly, that has been submitted? No? Not seeing any submitted, and is there anyone in the chambers that has? No? I see here we have Craig Weatherby on, and he has his hand up. Craig, do you want to unmute and for public input?
Thank you. Morning, Supervisors. I'd like to talk a little bit about Executive Order N-7-22, which was issued on March 28th. This is put in place for continuing drought conditions by Governor Newsom. There was a portion of that which had a direct impact on the county related to the issuing of well permits, and has essentially stopped us from issuing well permits for the past 3 weeks. I've been working very closely with County Council to come up with a solution so we can move forward. Folks can get their wells drilled. We now have in place our solutions to this, and I wanted to update you this morning on what we're doing to make this work. So there are 3 specific things in the executive order which applied. Section 9A has to do with managed water basins. Here in Lake County, the Big Valley water basin is the only watershed that is currently managed, and therefore that makes it a little bit easier for folks. We will require signatures from the management team of that basin before any well can be drilled in that area. And then issues 9B, and this is the more difficult one for folks. This applies to all wells that are being issued, whether they're ag wells, industrial wells, and so forth. There is now the requirement that they must get a hydrologist or some sort of a California engineering professional to attest to the fact that their well will not impact the performance of a nearby well, and that their well is not likely to cause a subsidence. In Lake County, the likelihood of causing a subsidence is very minimal. However, the condition of likely interfering with the production of another well, that is something that has been ongoing, and many folks have been very concerned about this over time. So we will be moving forward with the issuing of permits under the following conditions. Domestic use wells. Those are the wells that serve residences or businesses which use water incidental to their operations. Those wells will be granted an exemption per the executive order, provided that they do not take more than 2 acre-feet per year. So we will be moving forward on those with a certification from the property owner that they understand this limitation and that they will agree to abide by that limitation. The ag wells will be required to continue to provide the report that makes the statement that they will not likely affect the any other wells in the nearby area or cause the subsidence. So we are now issuing wells again with these works with County Council, and I'm very happy to be able to issue wells. We have a lot of folks whose wells are starting to run dry and they're looking to get work done. So we wanted to provide that update to you so you knew that we are back in the business of issuing wells. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. This time, we'll go ahead and close public input and move forward on our agenda. And the first item, or the next item, is our 907, which is... Yes.
Sorry about that. I was reading the mail. I did receive correspondence, and I'd just like to make sure that we do add this to the record from Janine Yanich. She is a Twin Lake resident, and she had written a letter. It's probably going to be longer than 3 minutes, but I'll do my best to kind of move through it. So this letter comes from Jean. It has to do with the illegal grows in the Twin Lakes area. We've had many contacted conversations about it, and I just want to make sure that this is in the record for Janine today. So I have the letter, and I'll provide that to staff. All right, thank you.
You're not going to read it?
I think it's going to be a lot longer than 3 minutes,
Okay.
so
All right.
that was my thought on it.
You can okay.
That was my thought.
So we will upload that letter to Granicus.
Just to get right to the specifics of it, is the illegal grows that are happening currently in Twin Lakes area and the water usage is their main concern. I don't have any answers for her yet, besides communicating with her and working on solutions at this point.
Excellent. Thank you, Mo.
I apologize about that timing.
Oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. And so our 907 is a 6.3 presentation of proclamation commending County Administration Officer Carol J. Hutchinson for her 29 years of service in Lake County. I'll read the proclamation, and we also have Assembly Member Cecilia Aguilar Curry and Senator Mike McGuire here as well. And they will like to say some things after I read the proclamation, so. I think I have it on. You hear me? All right, there we go, Sam. Yep. And so I'll just stand right here because I don't need that no more. No, yeah.
It's been pinned.
Yeah, he put a chip in my, Thank you for coming up with me on this. And so this is a proclamation for Carol Hutchinson. And since I've been working with Carol, you know, I appreciate, since I've been chair, not knowing how to, you know, I've been a chair before, but not in this capacity. And so she's been very helpful and has a lot of, she understands already like how I operate. So she presents things to me that like, okay, well, Eddie, you might go longer, or, you know, so let's put that later. She helps me structure the agenda in a way to where I know it won't go too long or something like that. So she has a very good sense of how we make decisions and how we operate, and so it's a good sense to have, Carol. So I just want to come and say that. And so with that, I'll read the proclamation commending County Administrative Officer Carol J. Hutchinson for 29 years of service to the County of Lake. Whereas, following 34 years of distinguished and uncommonly dedicated public service, Carol J. Hutchinson is retiring at the end of April 2022. And whereas, over 22 years, beginning in 1994, Hutchinson transformed the county's Department of Social Services into an agile organization responding to the needs of the community members as individuals in deficiency, delivering essential services in times of disaster. And whereas in September of 2015, Hutchinson stepped up to serve as Valley Fire Recovery Coordinator, partnering with the Board of Supervisors, department heads, and other statewide and community leaders to lead an organized response under unprecedented conditions. And whereas on February 2nd, 2016, Hutchinson became the first woman in Lake County's then 155-year history, to be appointed to the position of County Administrative Officer. And whereas in January of 2018, Hutchinson was the architect of a series of community visioning forums, culminating the board adoption of the community's priorities as Vision 2028 strategic plan. And whereas with Lake County facing an unparalleled 13 natural and investor-owned utility-informed disasters, Hutchinson rose to the occasion again and again, serving with distinction and critical leadership roles, most recently as incident commander for Lake County's COVID-19 pandemic response. And whereas determined the COVID-19 pandemic should be an opportunity to expand participation in local government, Hutchinson led a team that developed an award-winning, innovative hybrid approach to the public meetings. In August of 2020, 6 Board of Supervisors and virtual community meetings averaged 12,000 participants and viewers, equivalent to 18% of the county's population. And whereas County Administrative Officer Hutchinson has tirelessly sought to strengthen Lake County's governmental workforce, dramatically increasing available training opportunities, supporting our board's implementation of the first comprehensive classification and total compensation study in nearly 2 decades, partnering with our board to address long-standing hindrances to recruitment and retention, and building strong and collaborative relationships with labor groups. And whereas Hutchinson has been an enduring advocate for unity and equitable treatment of all people in recent years, collaborating with the board members to realize Indigenous Peoples Day in Lake County in October of 2019, Lake County's first ever LGBTQ+ Pride Month in June 2021, and serving as a trusted and key leader in Lake County's response to racial injustice. And whereas in her final year as County Administrative Officer, Hutchinson continued to innovate, partnering with supervisors, county departments, and roadmap task force to launch the first ever targeted community revitalization project in Lake County community of Clear Lake Oaks, and also collaborating with the chairman and co-chair of the board to lead development of the first comprehensive state of the county report, which she presented March 11th alongside county department heads. And whereas in nearly 3 decades serving with the County of Lake, Hutchinson has guided the careers of numerous people that have since assumed department head and crucial leadership roles in Lake County communities are more resilient as a direct result of her courageous, focused, and unrelenting efforts. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, Carol J. Hutchinson is hereby commended for her dedicated service to all Lake County connected individuals, and we extend to our deeply valued collaborator and friend best wishes for good health, happiness, and great success in the years ahead. Issued this 26th day of April, 2022, and it's signed by all of us supervisors. And I don't know if you wanted me to allow the Assemblywoman and Senator to say something first, or would you like to?
Whichever you prefer.
So I see Assembly Member Cecilia Aguilar Curry. Would you like to start first, and then we'll have Senator McGuire go after you?
Sure, that would be great. Good morning, Chairman, as well as supervisors. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize Carol today. And Carol, I don't know how, I wish I was there to give you a big hug, because we've been through so much together in a short period of time, and your leadership has been astounding, working with the state of California. When I first met Carol, for all of you that are here, obviously and unfortunately, it was through all the fires. And Carol stepped up, picked up the phone, made sure the people and the constituents of Lake County were taken care of. She had many questions. We had many questions for her, but she had a really strong team around her to make sure that all of you were taken care of. Now, of course, would we have liked things to be taken care of faster, but you know, government sometimes moves slowly, but not with Carol. Carol just kept moving forward and trying to make sure things were done. You know, Carol, from the bottom of my heart, I could read all my whereases, and I have a beautiful resolution that'll be from both Senator McGuire and myself. But I know it takes somebody with really strong backbone to take that job. It's been a very difficult time. We have people that don't necessarily always agree with us, but we keep persevering forward to make sure that your people are taken care of. And whether it's water, whether it's fire, whether it's the health of the lake, whether it's economic development, I've been able to have a really good, honest conversation with you as well as the supervisors to make sure that the state of California is with you and I think we've had a good partnership so far. And I know that your replacement's got big shoes to fill. I'm sure that person can do it. And I just wanted to assure the supervisors as well, as a state assembly member, I will continue to work with you to whoever fills these big shoes that need to be done. So Carol, God bless you. Thank you for everything. You know, everybody, we're going to miss her institutional knowledge. And that's going to be a really hard one. So I'm hoping your phone is available when we have that question, Carol. We'll find you because sometimes not everybody's going to know what you know. So again, to the Board of Supervisors, thank you for the opportunity to recognize Carol. Carol will get your resolution up there. I'll drive it up or find you. But again, thank you so much. And from the bottom of my heart, God bless you and have a wonderful retirement.
All right, Senator McGuire, if you're present.
And Chairman Crandall, Senator McGuire anticipates joining any moment, but he is not in Zoom at present. So I know there are many gathered here today who have some things to say and would like to join in celebrating Carol. So maybe we can take some comments from others.
All right, well, I'll offer Carol an opportunity if she would like to say anything, and if not, I can.
Okay. So, obviously, I've been here a long time, and the good news is my comments won't be anywhere near that long. My comments are going to be really brief. Showed up here in 1993 and could never have pictured what was going to come in the years ever since then. So what an extraordinary opportunity this has been. And in the proclamation, it talked a lot about people. And one of the most rewarding things that I've been able to do in my years here is help spin off the careers of many other people and watch other people grow and develop and lead. And I think Lake County is a better place for it. It really is all about people here in Lake County. That's the thing that is most unique about us, is that we pitch in as the human beings that drive the engine of the county of Lake. And so thinking of all those people that I have worked for and with over the past 29 years, I'll start with the 68,000 that we're all here to serve, of course move on to the 5 electeds, and then speak to the 800 or so county employees that we have on board. I give my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for joining me in this commitment to serve Lake County and make it a better place. These times that I've had here in Lake County have been wonderful. I think we have achieved great success in my years here, and as I look back, I'll be very proud of those efforts. In terms of the phases of my own career, starting my career and spending many years at DSS with my work family there, a long and heartwarming experience with those people there that I will never forget. And then moving on to serve our communities during the time of recovery when people were in complete crisis. Certainly another great rewarding experience in my career to be able to serve people during those horrible times. And then most recently in the CAO seat, when the board selected me to serve as CAO, I told them 3 to 5 years. If you weren't counting, you got 6 out of me, so that's the little bonus. So as I said, I'm really proud of what we've been able to achieve here in Lake County in recent years. I will not forget all the great experiences that I've had here. I believe that Lake County is on a wonderful path. We've accomplished so much, and we have so much before us that's just right around the corner in terms of all the great things that are about to happen in Lake County. And so it's my wish to all of you for great success in your lives, your careers, and in furthering positive paths here in Lake County. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you for those wonderful words. Are there any board members that would like to say anything at this time?
Sure. Carol, when I landed in this seat, Mocha and I went to a conference and we were asked, what is Lake County's plan? And we turned to you and said, what is Lake County's plan? and you did it. It was absolutely amazing, the Vision 2028, just having a path to guide us. And that was you that put us in that direction. So you definitely are leaving Lake County in a much better place with the plan moving forward. And I know we never know what's going to happen in the future, but at least we know we can always go back and reset and know we have a direction to follow. So thank you for all your years and your hard work, and happy retirement.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, Carol, thank you. That's all that I really just need to get across to you. Coming on the Board of Supervisors for the first Native American elected in the county's history, just like yourself as the first woman as a CAO. I didn't know what to expect coming into the county. And so just as Tina said, you set us up with the first CSAC training as we went over there. And it really was an eye-opener when they asked every county to raise their hand on their 10-year plan, 20-year plan, 50-year plan. And Lake County didn't get to raise their hand. And we looked at you and we said, all right, what's the plan going forward? And you already had one. So that was great, because we knew the vision that you had was going to be a good one we could follow and support and work together. And it's not always easy. Just as Cecilia said, you got 50% of the room happy, 50% of the room unhappy, and we just got to keep moving forward. But one of the most critical things I think that set myself on a path that I greatly appreciated your leadership was the director head training that you set up. Previous to myself and Tina, when you came on as a Board of Supervisor, it probably took you a few years to meet all the directors in the county. But over a 6 or 7 month process, we met with every director as a Board of Supervisors. We spent the day with them to understand exactly what they do for our constituents in Lake County. And that's really helped guide some decision making that happens up here on this diocese. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because there were no handbooks. There were no meeting dates and stuff set up. I know we've worked on that now to know that each committee that we set on, given the information to the CAO's office, it was just a guideline to really get me set off on the right foot and to do as much as I could to help my constituents. I just want to thank you for that, because that is hard. And I sat right here on this diocese with previous members saying, boy, I never got to do that. When I came on, I didn't get the opportunity to meet every director and to understand what they were doing for our constituents. So that's a really important thing that our community needs to understand, that was started with your leadership here and will continue on. And I think it's very important. The other thing I'd like to say from day one is your advocacy for our employees, the people who do the work every day. In conversations we've had throughout this process to be where we are today, when we did the class and comp study, number one thing was really from you, what I got was a heartfelt, we need to do what we've never done in Lake County to take care of the employees, to help them help the constituents. And I want to thank you for that. It was a lot of hard conversations with board to get there, but caring about the people, just as you said, was one of the main things that I really take from you and really appreciated your leadership from. So there are a lot of great things and a lot of bad things we went through as far as the disasters, but you were always there. And I saw the transition both from being not on the board during the Valley Fire recovery to being on the board, and I saw when you were inserted into the emergency operations, the change that came, which a positive change happened. So I greatly appreciate that. Yeah, Cecilia said it, big shoes to fill, but I know this board will make sure to make the right choices for Lake County moving forward. And I know you said we got 6 years out of you, but we'll probably be bugging you for another 12 months on questions, just as Cecilia said. So greatly appreciate it, and it was an honor to be the first Native American elected to this board with you as a CAO. So thank you.
and I see Senator McGuire has joined us, and so I'll pause the board's comments for now and allow our Senator Mike McGuire to give his comments.
Well, good morning, board, chair. Thank you so much. Assemblywoman Aguiar Curry, and to the CAO. I'm probably gonna get a little choked up today, and it's an exciting day for Carol, and it's a bad day for all of us because Carol Hutchinson has been the steady hand, along with so many hardworking board members over the years. Ms. Hutchinson, your service to this county is unmatched. You truly have been the steady hand during some of the darkest days that we face. And each year we say that it can't get worse, and every year it did. County of Lake has faced incredible challenge with the devastating wildfires. And you have helped lead this county in our region, rebuilding communities and neighborhoods from the ashes. And no matter how big the disaster may be, you could always count on Carol to deliver. You can count on her visionary and dedicated leadership. And no matter how tough the times may be, it has never wavered, no matter how tough the challenge. I want to talk about the pandemic for a moment. Thank God we had Carol Hutchinson in the seat where she was during this public health crisis. You brought tremendous leadership during this incredibly challenging time. And no matter how unprecedented this public health crisis became, you always delivered for the people of Lake. You're willing to make the tough decisions. Your heart is always with the most vulnerable. No one has been a more tenacious advocate for those who need our help the most than Carol Hutchinson. You're compassionate. You're a bridge builder. You're truly a visionary leader. You've professionalized the workforce, and there is no greater advocate for the County of Lake than Carol Hutchinson. Madam CAO, it has just been an honor to work with you. I've been honored to partner with you and the board and Assemblywoman Aguiar-Curry. And I got to tell you, when you look back at this career, you know that you have made Lake County stronger and you've made this state a better place. And I wish you the best of luck in your retirement. I know that you're not going far, you and the dogs. And I look forward to seeing those pooch pics as well. But on behalf of Assemblywoman Aguiar-Curry, we're really honored to be able to present you the highest honor of the state legislature, as she had said, the Golden Resolution. And I'm just so grateful to be with each and every one of you today.
Thank you to both Assemblymember and Senator McGuire. I don't think you could hear me a moment ago because I wasn't mic'd, but I just have to say what a gift it has been to work with both of you over the years. Lake County is thriving in large part because of the incredible support we get from you two. So thank you so much for all you've done for us. And I'll miss you, but yeah, I'll post puppy pics. I'll go back on social media. As you might imagine, I've taken a bit of a holiday on social media.
A 6-year holiday.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you. We'll be there. We'll continue to be there for Lake County. Thank you.
Love you, Carol.
Love you, Carol.
All right, so I didn't know if any, Jessica? Oh, sorry, Bruno.
Did you want to go first? Okay. Well, first, as a fire survivor constituent, I really want to thank you for taking on that role and leading the recovery. It was unprecedented, and nobody really knew what to do. It was the beginning of the mega fire era in our region. So a lot of those first steps and that first work kind of set the framework for other communities going forward. A lot of lessons have been learned along the way, and unfortunately we're likely not finished, so we're going to continue learning. And that really brings me to where we are now, and how you really helped me as a baby supervisor in a COVID bubble who could not meet anybody and still hasn't met a lot of people in person. So I really relied on your guidance and connecting me to who I needed to be connected with because I couldn't have those personal interactions. So I know you don't like it when I use the word mentor, but you have been, and I've appreciated all of that guidance. And you've always been a champion for whatever it is I set out to do to serve our constituents. And so if I had any ideas or plans or strategies, you were there with me to help design that so we could achieve and implement all of those things. And we've done a lot in the short time that we've been together, and I'm really proud to have had the opportunity to work with you. And as Senator McGuire said, we are so much stronger because of your leadership. And I'm deeply appreciative that you've led us to this place, but you've also built the framework for us to continue. So thank you so much.
Carol, as you know, I talk to a lot of people. And 2015, I think, was a point where we could have absolutely gone downhill and kept on burning, or stood up and said, we need to figure out how to deal with this. And I feel that from my conversations, a lot of people felt lost until you came into the scene to help lead the effort on what are we doing about this fire, what are we doing about the people that have been displaced. I think that is huge. I think that is an absolute highlight of some of the stuff that you've done for us. You stood up where most people would have been nervous to take that position because nobody knew what they were doing. Nobody knew what should be expected of us to do. But you decided that you wanted to be in that position, and I think that everybody needed that leadership, and you were there for that. And I absolutely appreciate that. There are times where I email Carol and I don't get a response, but I know that between 4 and 5 a.m. is probably where I'm going to get my response. I do not meet this many people in my life that work as hard as Carol Hutchinson does. I at first, because I didn't know enough, I always wondered, why does she leave almost exactly at 5 p.m.? Well, because she's been working for over 12 hours for this place already at 5 p.m. And people should probably go home by that point. And so after learning more and seeing more, I recognize the work ethic that you have, that you carry with you, and that it's a lead by example of what other people behind you are seeing and also are trying to attain. And I think that's one of the big the part of the big shoes that we talk about, is it takes a lot of work to do the work that you do. Your communication level, obviously, from the state as well as the federal. I don't think we have brought Honorado or Thompson with us today, but I know that you have a very close relationship with our federal contacts, our federal representatives. But your communication with us is never hesitant, and it's never feel ignored. I know that you and I, at times, will disagree on things, but as you know, I like to share. I don't hold back when I speak with you. But I see some of the stuff that I share with you pop up later on other agenda items or other concepts that maybe you figured out how to integrate something, and you're always listening. And I appreciate that. And during every disaster that we've been through, I'm not left wondering what's happening. Again, your communication has always been top-notch, whether for good or bad. We have to get the bad news if there's bad news to be said. But I absolutely appreciate the fact that you're approachable, you're there, and you always communicate when things are happening. 29 years of public service is nothing to ignore and sneer at. It is absolutely a huge highlight of your life and what you've done and accomplished, and I thank you so much for serving the people of Lake County and also taking on the role that you have for this county. And best of luck to happiness and great experiences in the future.
So I knew of Carol as I worked for an organization called the California Tribal TANF Partnership, and so I worked in the integrity department, which dealt with fraud investigation and things of that nature. So when we'd have meetings, the director at that time would always say, I'll touch base with Carol Hutchinson. So I knew of her, but I didn't know, coming from that realm. So when I came over, I just want to highlight, too, that those things were very helpful that Supervisor Simon had mentioned. Going through those classes, going through the orientations, and then hearing the other supervisors say, I never went through that. And then having the Vision 2028, I was present at the initial meetings that they had, even had one at Robinson, so we coordinated that. And so just to know that those were all something that you put a lot of work and effort into, and we're still following through on that. And we're still giving these orientations and director meetings so that we can get accustomed to these folks while we're working with them and build relationships. Thank you for that. That's something that, it goes a long ways. And so just establishing something that we can build from here forward is, you've done a lot to move this county in that direction. So thank you again. All right. So I'll open it up for public input.
Photo.
Oh, a photo. Oh, Sam.
Taking a picture.
We want to, yeah, let's all go down. Yeah.
Need everybody in the.
She's not that easy.
Oh, yeah, Anita.
I'm not in the photo.
Oh, yes, you are.
Where shall I go? I'm going to go on the other side, so Carol could be in the middle.
Okay.
All right.
Great. All right, one more. Oh, two more. Great. Excellent.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Anything else, Sam, before I go up? Okay. I will turn this one off. There we go. And so is there anyone in the chambers that would like to come up for public comments on this proclamation? And then I don't see that, so I do see somebody, and I see Todd Metcalf, if you can unmute, and yeah.
Yes, good morning, board. Boy, I was listening to that proclamation, and I'm afraid I'm one of those courageous efforts that was mentioned in Carol's proclamation. Carol, it's already been mentioned before, you have been an amazing mentor, and I can't thank you enough for all your help and support during our years together. You've just been an awesome support and helped me through many difficult things, in particular this position that I've held now for the last few years. So I don't know how else to say thank you, but congratulations and best wishes in your retirement, and all I can say is that you will be missed. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you because I need to be in the board chambers here fairly soon. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd. Crystal?
Good morning, everyone. Crystal Marketan, Social Services Director and a predecessor of Carol here at Social Services. I just want to say thank you to Carol for bringing me to Lake County. It has been a fantastic opportunity for me, and just a real pleasure to be here at Social Services, which she left as a very well organized department, and I was the beneficiary of that. But I just appreciate so many things about Carol that have already been mentioned, but not least of which is her work ethic. And I think that comes through loud and clear. And she, has helped me in several situations where I really needed some advice in terms of how to handle certain things. And I just really appreciate her willingness to do that and continue to engage. And I do wish her the absolute best moving forward. I know that she probably will find something to do in her spare time, I'm guessing. And I too want dog pictures. So congratulations, Carol, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal. All right. Anita Grant?
Well,
You must have your Zoom on.
Yeah, turn off your computer. Oh, it's off.
There we go.
I just wanted everybody's attention before I speak.
That's it, yep.
So now that I have it, no. Well, Carol, I'm going to miss you. Sat next to Carol for 6 years. We've commented on pretty much everything that's gone in front of the board. You can't hear most of it, which is probably is good, yes. But I'm not just losing a CAO, I'm losing a neighbor. So it's quite a tear in the fabric of the history of Lake County and our history working together. I think I speak for everyone when I say you could still change your mind. Okay, well, it was worth a try. But I will miss you very much, and everyone has already very eloquently spoken of their thanks on behalf of Lake County. I won't add to that, but I will echo it.
Thank you. Matthew Rothstein? Oh, sorry. Pam, you're next.
So, Chair, I'm sorry, am I the next one to go?
Yes, and then Pam.
This is Matthew Rothstein, Deputy County Administrative Officer. And I just want to say thank you, Carol, for serving with uncommon focus and dedication, as so many have said. And moreover, doing it with a spirit of generosity that sustained your drive for more than 3 decades. Observing your unflinching support of the board's vision and the community's priorities has been a great education for me and a true privilege. Each board member that you've worked with, past and present, can point directly to projects they were able to realize through your collaboration. And those efforts have made a difference for the constituents and communities that we serve. Thank you for challenging all of us to uphold a high standard of public service. Each of us that has worked with you closely has grown in ways that we truly couldn't have anticipated. And that was inspired in part by the sacrifices that we saw you make day after day, often starting before 4 a.m. With the leadership of Interim County Administrative Officer Susan Parker, who originally came to Lake County as a result of an intensive nationwide search, the Administrative Office stands ready to continue supporting the public, the board, and county departments. And thank you, Carol, for your dedication to developing an effective team. Thank you also for choosing roles and projects throughout your career, not because they were easy or popular, but because they were important. As a result, you've made remarkable contributions and forged pathways that many people have already followed, and that will continue. You will be deeply missed, Carol, and I'm confident whatever form your next steps take, they'll be extraordinary and meaningful. May you dive into it with your whole self, as you've always done.
Thank you, Matthew.
Pam?
Hello. I'm Pam Samak, the Director of HR, and I should have gone before Matthew. This won't be quite as eloquent. But I'd just like to thank you for the last 3 years. Your mentorship has been invaluable. You kind of helped me sand off the rough edges and helped me learn how to navigate in being a director in a government organization. And the collaboration and mentorship has been invaluable to me. It's made me a stronger person, a stronger manager, and you will be missed.
Thank you, Pam.
Jennifer Baker?
Hi, Carol.
Hey.
I still can't figure out how to fit in the frame correctly. I just wanted to thank you very much for all of the support you've provided me through my journey over here at the health department, and just on behalf of the department, helping us all kind of muddle through this great unknown. Your support and your direction is invaluable, and I cannot confirm that I will not text you and still ask you copious amounts of questions after Friday. I appreciate everything, and I just want.
Thank you, Jen. Text me after 6 a.m. I'm going to try to learn to sleep.
Thank you, Jennifer. With that, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board. And I'll just say also, thank you, Carol, for adopting one of the Robinson Rancheria res dogs. That's a pretty
Yes.
cool thing, too. It was interesting to know when you introduced me to your dog that from Robinson.
She's a fabulous animal. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our 908, which is a presentation of proclamation designating the week of April 24th through 30th, 2022 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And Supervisor Pyska will read this proclamation. And if you're here on behalf of the proclamation, please come and join us.
Okay, the Board of Supervisors, County of Lake, State of California proclamation designating the week of April 24th to the 30th, 2022 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Whereas Americans are the victims of more than 20 million crimes each year, and crimes can touch the lives of anyone regardless of age, national origin, race, creed, religion, gender, sexual orientation, immigration, or economic status. And whereas too many communities feel disconnected from the justice and social response systems and have lost trust in the ability of those systems to recognize and respond to their needs. And whereas victims of repeated victimization who fail to receive supportive services are at a greater risk for long-term consequences, and the victim service community has worked for decades to create an environment for victims that is safe, supportive, and effective. And whereas the Victim Witness Division of the District Attorney's Office in Lake County serves crime victims daily, providing assistance and support for a variety of their needs. And whereas the Victim Witness Division, along with the state and federal agencies, is working to improve services to create victims, services to crime victims, and to enact laws that ensure fair treatment for all victims of crime in Lake County and throughout California. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Lake County Board of Supervisors does hereby designate the week of April 24th through 30th, 2022 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and express their appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. Passed and adopted this 26th day of April 2022.
Well, I didn't write anything, which is great for you because this will be very brief. What I want to do, first of all, is thank all of our community partners. I'm going to back up here so you guys go this way so they can see you. Law enforcement, Lake County Sheriff's Office, Clear Lake Police Department, Lakeport Police Department, the Probation Department. We have tribal partners, Lake Family Resource Center, the hospitals that we work with, and it is truly a team effort to provide services to victims of crime. This week is National Crime Victims' Rights Week, but at Victim Witness, every week is Crime Victims' Rights Week. And I think that a lot of people would be surprised to know in this small community that these people, this is my entire team of advocates, they have provided services to 1,412 people in the last 12 months. And thank you. And what I really want to do is, I don't know if I've done this before publicly, I tell them all the time how amazing they are. But I want to share with you guys that these people make me come to work. They are amazing. They work with empathy. They work with really difficult situations. I'm sorry, getting... They are full of kindness and goodness and everything you want out of the people that serve Lake County. And I am so grateful for them. Lake County is so lucky to have them. They are worked so hard and meeting people at their most difficult, when people have dealt with the most difficult thing that they're probably going to deal with. And we're talking about, working with, survivors or family members of people that were victims of homicide or sexual assault or domestic violence. And these people show up and they're an ear, and they provide restraining orders. They, tap into our resources, make sure people have a safe place to be, and they are amazing, and I'm so grateful for them. So. And then the last thing is we do a National Crime Victims' Rights Week barbecue where we honor all of our community partners and our county partners. So we'll be doing that again on Thursday. Thank you, guys. Yeah, she was banned. Come on. Come on.
If everybody's smiling, you can't. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we're so
Thank you for the work that you do, and we'll see you Thursday. Is there any comment from the public that would like to accentuate on this item? And if not, I'll bring it back to the board if there's any other comments. Hearing none, we will now move on to our 6.5, which is a public hearing on account and proposed assessment for 6329 10th Avenue, Lucerne. And with that, we will invite code enforcement up and the Director Beltramo and Bruno, you broke that one?
I swear I didn't touch anything.
No, it got broken yesterday. Fingers crossed.
Yes, you can come up. Tina, right?
Yes.
Yes. Tina and Marcus.
Okay, fingers crossed. Yes.
It worked.
You hit a new standard for the level of excitement we're looking for from now on. And that was just a USB.
You're making fun of me.
And so we would need, in case there's anyone also here in the Zoom room, if you are present on this item, we need to swear not only the officers in, but also any folks that are here on behalf of this item on the agenda.
Okay.
All right.
With your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marcus Beltramo. I'm the manager for the Code Enforcement Division for the Community Development Department. And today we're here to give an account and a proposed assessment for an abatement that was completed. I'm happy today that I will not be presenting. My code enforcement officer, Tina Ransberg, will be presenting. It's probably better that the officers who are actually hands-on, have all the details, have all the first-hand knowledge that they present, and give you all the material information for your consideration. Tina is assigned primarily to the Lucerne area. That's her main target area. And now I will turn it over and let her present.
Good morning, I'm Tina Ransberg, and the property we are discussing is 6329 10th Avenue in Lucerne. It's not loud enough. Okay. The property owners were identified as Buck and Keena Cooper, the APN, and it was an R1 single-family dwelling. In October 2021, we received a few complaints about the property located at 6329 10th, and these are the following violations that we found on the property. These are some site photos of the property when we went out there to do an initial assessment of the violations. As you can see, there was a lot of garbage, bottles of human waste, rats. There were hypodermic needles and a lot of stuff in that pile. Here are some more site photos of the property and the amount of trash. And here is some more. All of our mailings were sent to the property owner. We also determined that the taxes were in default on the property. We were unable to find a responsible party willing to correct the violations on the property. So due to the health and safety concerns, code enforcement moved forward with the abatement process. And in October 2021, an inspection and abatement warrant was issued by the County of Lake Superior Court judge. And our abatement was conducted by Leonard's Hauling and Tractor Service, and 2 tons of garbage was removed from the property. It was actually 4,360 pounds of garbage. So there's a before picture, and then there's an after picture. And here are some more pictures of the violations that were corrected. So in October, we attained compliance with the property. The cost of the abatement, Leonard's Hauling, was $5,500. The administrative costs were $1,448.06. So we are asking that the board confirms the assessment of $6,948.06 to record a notice of lien against the property.
Add a few pieces of information as well. The property owners, from the information we received, were deceased. The people living in the property were explained to us by the neighbors to be squatters. And what occurred here was actually a summary abatement. The conditions were at such an immediate issue that a summary abatement was requested, and so we had to go in immediately to remove the 4,000 plus amount of trash and garbage from the site there. And a power to sell has been recorded on the property, so at this point it's the tax collector's responsibility to ensure that that's put on a list and this property is properly dealt with by their department, and hopefully some new owners will buy it, take it, make it special.
Thank you for that. Supervisor Sabatier?
Thank you very much for the presentation. Love seeing these. This is showing that we're proactively, well, not proactively, but we're actively cleaning up our community, and that's exactly what we want to see. I'm seeing that, and I apologize for only catching this today, that both the properties, they're both owned by the same people. It's weird, the one that you cleaned up is kind of landlocked by the first property in front of it that's on 10th Street, but they seem to be owned by the same people. Both those properties are on the tax auction that's happening in almost exactly 1 month from now. Now, I've had this happen before where somebody has purchased a property and then a lien shows up after the tax auction, where in the tax auction it says you're going to get this free and clear because all the liens and all of the other actions that are on the property are there. I just want to make sure we don't get in a situation where it's a bad surprise and somebody who could have been a participant landlord in the community suddenly feels like something wasn't clear to them. How do we approach that in a different way? Is there no choice? I'm just trying to figure out. The timeline makes it too close to change what the minimum bid would be. That's too late. So just kind of curious on how that might be affected. Other than that, I want to approve this, but I just want to make sure it doesn't have a negative impact on the process that we're seeing in the auction.
And I understand your concerns, and those are valid concerns. Obviously, when someone buys a property, they want all the material information when they make an offer on a property. At this point, I really don't have an answer for that question. I would like maybe if council could maybe chime in and maybe opine on the matter and maybe provide some information, if that's possible.
So what efforts, may I ask, what efforts were made in this regard leading up to it?
Efforts to contact the property owner?
Yes.
So the property owners, went through our normal statutory requirements of posting the 48-hour notice to the property, mailing it. We also mailed a notice of assessment for this hearing today to the property owner. To my knowledge, all mailings were returned to sender.
If I may continue?
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you,
Ms.
Chair.
Grant.
I thought I had understood a statement that the property owner was deceased.
So that's the information that was provided by the neighbors, so that would be, I guess, hearsay, as we didn't have any direct information, and the information obtained by the officers in the field, no contact information was provided or obtained.
And upon learning, at least anecdotally, that the property owners were deceased, did you make any efforts to verify that status?
In this situation, there was another officer involved, our supervisor. No additional information was made to determine if they were deceased. The issue was a summary abatement, was an immediate issue. So time is of the essence in those type of situations. So we moved forward, we cleaned the lot, and we abated the health and safety issue. But no further information was obtained as to the actual status of the property owners.
What I would recommend in these types of circumstances where you have indications that the property owner is deceased, that the department develop a policy, a procedure for this eventuality. I understand when something gives rise to an immediate threat of harm, and obviously a summary abatement is only appropriate when you truly don't have time to take the normal course of action because of the danger to public health, safety, and welfare. So a summary abatement creates a very high bar in terms of the circumstances that justify it. And nonetheless, then you will have cost hearings. The process does continue. So I would suggest that there be a protocol. My office is happy to help with that. When someone is deceased, there still is generally someone who's going to be responsible for the property, and it's important to give notice to and make contact with, or at least be able to make a clear evidentiary showing that all due diligence was employed to do so. So that's what I would suggest going forward here. I understand the circumstances of the summary abatement. For the action, that's certainly applicable. For these costs, it's not as applicable in terms of knowing the status of who's responsible.
And I would like to comment, this was a special circumstance when we are dealing currently with several properties where we have received information that the property owners are no longer living. And what we do through that, we actually work with the civil coroner's office. We work with the recorder's office to see if there's a death certificate in Lake County. We do Google searches, those type of things. So this is an outlier, and there are processes in place, and there are properties that we are currently dealing with where the owners, where we have information to believe the owners are deceased.
Ms. Grant?
I would suggest there's also a call to the public guardian, public administrator for the county, because if someone dies intestate without a will in California and without active family relationships, i.e. heirs, oftentimes those cases become the responsibility of that department. And again, my suggestion for a protocol is both as a training device for people who come on, but also as a checklist so your board can clearly see that all necessary steps have been taken. It eases your decision making and it informs the organizational presentation for the department.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
All right. Supervisor Sabatier?
And I don't know that any clarity was brought for the issue of the tax auction. I get it that it's you need to do your due diligence if you're going to purchase a property in a tax auction, but the list has been out there for a little bit, and I don't know when this amount will show up. Do we have a timeline of when we think this lien will actually be recorded and put on the property?
So as soon as approval is given, if given, we will write up the document, we will go to the recorder's office, we will have it recorded immediately. I'm not sure how their processes are. I know there's a time there where they have to go through the review of the document, then processing it. So I'm unsure what their timeframes are, but we will take it and have it recorded immediately. And again, we'll be at the mercy of the recorder's office and their processes and their systems at that point. So unfortunately, I do not have a timetable available to.
Ms. Grant?
Yes, I can, and I apologize for not directing my comments to that. I went off on the whole notice issue. The issue with regard to a property on tax sale, until the period of time where redemption ends, which the tax collector can tell you, I don't recall, but it's not at this point, I would doubt. The property still belongs to whoever is on the deed, so a lien is completely, I think, appropriate here. The lien occurs when it's prepared and signed. Now, certainly, once it goes to tax sale, not having it recorded yet could pose a problem in terms of actually getting the lien paid. But if you have a valid lien, the county still can claim from the excess proceeds of the sale. So because most properties are sold free and clear of liens, the most direct recourse to obtaining your money is to file as a claimant, which the county has done on many occasions. And the county, then there's a priority in terms of which lien holders take precedence. And according to that priority, then you would be paid as much as the estate has to pay your lien.
Okay.
And I'd like to piggyback off that. Usually when a buyer makes an offer, that offer is for what they believe the value of the property's for. The exceeds or the money that's paid to the seller, that's where the lien is paid. That basically, the lien would affect the seller's money that they receive. So in this situation, just like Councilor Grant stated, there is a lien priority, and that money that's paid or received from the buyer will go to satisfy those liens in the statutory order by the law. So again, the lien shouldn't affect the buyer's offer, it'll affect the seller's profits.
Ms. Grant?
Well,
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Ms. Grant?
I was just going to clarify that the seller only gets any money if there's anything left. All the debtors come first, and frequently that's going to exhaust the estate. Certainly properties often sell for more than the back taxes, even with penalty and interest. And so that overage from what a willing buyer pays for it, less what the tax collector is required to recoup, is the excess proceeds from which those claims can be made. And they're routinely made by all the mortgage holders, lien holders. And as Mr. Beltramo was stating, then the seller would recoup whatever, if anything, is left.
And just to finish up, my worry is minimum bid right now is based on what is on the actual property liens that exist, not this. If it does go above the minimum bid, then yes, it's possible, but are we going to actually put the lien and record it by May 27th when the auction starts, which means that the new owner may pay off the property, and then suddenly 2-3 months later we'll find a tax bill that says you owe us $6,000, because it's happened before in the past. The timelines don't always mesh. And I was just checking in on that. Obviously, I need to have a conversation with the tax collector. I think that's where the information could potentially be provided. But I think at this moment in time, we just keep moving forward.
Ms. Grant?
Well, in that case, the bona fide purchaser for value would not have notice of the lien. So as I briefly alluded to, that would create complications legally if you're trying to do it after the fact. And even before the fact, although government liens may survive, I haven't checked to see if a loan for code enforcement will survive a tax sale. That's a question that we can look at certainly and respond to, because if it does not, however, as I said, any excess proceeds. But you're right, that's dependent upon there being excess proceeds for properties, and sometimes, as you know, it's difficult to even get the amount that's owed to the tax collector.
Supervisor Pyska?
And do you know what the amount that's owed is?
$33,000 for both properties, the one that's landlocked and the one that's on 10th Street.
For both of them, not separate?
Yes, together. It's a combo deal. You can't get one without the other.
It's an unusual situation, what's going on with this property. I was kind of surprised when I first saw it. But I'd also like to add that it sounds like code enforcement, if the board approves this lien, we would have to have it recorded, and then we would have to be in direct conversation with the tax collector's office for any kind of demand, it sounds like, as well, to make sure that it's evidence that we have a interest or lien on this property so that they can have that for their records.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that, for reiterating that, because that does need to take place. So with that, I will open it up to anybody online if they have any, because I don't know if anybody here in the chambers has any. I didn't see anybody stand up for the swearing in, and I don't see anybody online raising their hands, and so we'll bring it back to the board for action. I know it's in my district, but if anybody wants to take up the motion, I'll.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the Board of Supervisors confirm the assessment of $6,009.4806 and staff to record a notice of lien against the property. After recordation, it shall be delivered to the county auditor and shall enter the amount of the lien on the assessment roll as a special assessment. The cost of the abatement services are $5,500, and the administrative costs on this case amounted to $1,448.06.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we would like to thank you again, Code Enforcement, for another one of these. It's good to have one every week like you've been doing, and we know it shows the work that you've been doing in the communities.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I'll entertain a break before we move on to our next item, unless everybody's okay to punch on. But I think we'll take the break, 5 minutes.
And we're all right on time, so it's perfect. Well, you know what you do? You just
supply me with all kinds of things for my
You know what you do is you just storm the board meetings and demand stuff.
You said that right when we started, so you heard it from the Supervisor Sabatier. We're back from our break.
School board.
Thank you for coming back with us and joining us for our next item on the agenda, which is 6.6, 10:15 a.m. item, consideration of presentation on the organized delivery system, 1115 demonstration, and 1915B waiver for substance use disorder treatment services, and B, approve joining the organized delivery system. And with this, Director Metcalf will be presenting this item on behalf of Behavioral Health Services, along with others. All right. Will there be anyone else joining us on Zoom as well, or? Okay.
Maybe. Elise Jones, our administrative deputy director, could not be here, but she may.
Okay, and then I see Mark Bontrager
Yes,
and
will be
Jennifer.
joining us
Okay.
as well.
As will Jennifer Kent.
Oh,
I
yes.
I see her hand raised, and so.
Good, good.
Yes.
Why don't you guys sit there?
And with that, if we can add them to the, yes, there you go. He's adding them to the list so that way they can be part of the, all right. And then we'll give the floor to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. My name is Todd Metcalf. I'm the Director of Lake County Behavioral Services. You have heard us talk about this 1115 waiver over the last few months, or maybe even longer than that, because this is a discussion that's been going around for many years since I've been in this position. So today, I have our Substance Use Disorder Services Administrator, April Gambra, with me, along with our esteemed Mental Health Advisory Board Chair, Julie Colfax, who will help us talk through the Drug Medi-Cal Organized Delivery System for Substance Use Disorder Services. We have recently facilitated a few stakeholder meetings and surveys over the last couple of months to help determine which organized delivery system we should implement. There are two models, which you will hear about shortly here, that will be outlined by two guest subject matter speakers that can speak very well to both of those two models. Julie Colfax has graciously volunteered to help facilitate this discussion, not voluntold, but volunteered to help us walk through this. And she will also be sharing the feedback that we received from the stakeholders from the meetings and surveys that we facilitated. So April and I are here to support. I believe Elise Jones, our administrative deputy director, is also in here via Zoom that could, jump in as needed. So Julie, are you ready?
Yes, I think so.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. I speak kind of loud, so I don't want to overpower it. Yes, my name is Julie Colfax. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and chair of the Mental Health Advisory Board. I participated with Lake County Behavioral Health Services in inviting input from over 92 different invitees directly to our 4 stakeholder meetings, where we had some wonderful discussions about how the DMC-ODS works and what the different options are and how it looks different from our current state plan. I would like to provide that information to you today at the end of the discussion about what those differences are and what the benefit is toward going with the DMC-ODS over the current plan, which I know our folks will be providing from the department. But we did have 4 different stakeholder meetings during which representatives from more than 10 different agencies, local stakeholders, and community members participated in discussions along with the Mental Health Advisory Board, and I know some of the supervisors attended those as well. And so I will follow up the presentation that gives you information about it with the voice of the stakeholders.
Thank you.
That, we'll hand it over to...
Who's going first?
I
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. April Gambra, Lake County Behavioral Health. Todd previously announced my role with our department. I believe we have Jennifer Kent and we have Mark from Partnership. So Jennifer Kent is the ex-director of Department of Healthcare Services. So she helped facilitate and pave the way for the original 1115 drug Medi-Cal expanded delivery system. So she comes with a immense amount of knowledge, and so we've asked for her to be able to present that model. And then we also have Mark, and I do not want to try to pronounce his last name. He is I believe the director with the Partnership Healthcare Plan. He will also provide an overview of that model, the regional model. And so I believe we're going to go ahead and start with Jennifer Kent, if she's ready.
Great. So first off, can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for allowing me to present to you. As April said, I am in some cases one of the people to blame or credit with the creation of the drug Medi-Cal organized delivery system program in California. So I just want to provide some kind of very quick overview about the history of how you as a county are kind of facing a couple of different options today. So pre-2015, there were very few options for patients in Medi-Cal to get any kind of treatment for substance use disorder. It was a very limited benefit. It was, it had some very public problems with fraudulent providers, most notably down in Los Angeles. And so as a result of those unfortunate occurrences, it gave the state an opportunity to re-envision the way that we delivered substance use disorder services to residents of the various counties. And so we asked the federal government for a waiver to allow us to both increase benefits, but to also waive certain federal rules that have been in place for many, many years and prevented state Medicaid programs from receiving matching funds for certain types of things like residential treatment. So, you know, California has a requirement in federal law that you have to maintain statewide access to drug Medi-Cal services approved in the state plan. That's basically California's contract with the federal government to provide Medi-Cal services. And by maintaining that contract, you continue to be able to draw down, you know, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in federal funds. So as you think about your options that you're going to be thinking today in terms of which delivery system you want to choose, I really want to stress that there are significant federal funds that will flow to you as a county opting into either system that you so select. And then making it more complicated for people that are not well versed in this program, under the 2011 realignment deal struck between the state of California and the counties, the state of California has agreed to support county expenditures when benefits, services, or eligibility levels change above the time in 2011 when the deal was announced. So the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, for example, when we allowed and expanded Medicaid to single childless adults, that federal matching dollar is matched with state general fund and not county funds. And so that's also a very important component when you think about going into the organized delivery system. And I'll have an example maybe that I'll refer to a little bit later about another county where you can really see the magnification of those federal funds versus the county funds that are being much more efficiently used. You know, there are a lot of compliance challenges with both running your current existing program as well as a new program under the organized delivery system. So I don't want to dismiss that. And I know that your staff has been very mindful of the fact that there are contracting requirements, there are oversight and compliance issues that need to be managed. There are data and privacy and security factors that always need to be taken into account. And then in this new world order under the organized delivery system, there are requirements such as network adequacy. You have to do a provider directory. There's a very kind of rigorous appeals and grievance process, continuity of care. And so smaller counties are sometimes a little bit taken aback by the nature of these requirements because they are more than what you are doing now. I'm not saying that that's an impossibility or it makes it less likely to choose that option. I'm just saying that smaller counties, again, given sometimes smaller staff and less familiarity, are taken a little bit, they're a little bit stunned by how much more compliance has to be followed. And I come from a small county by way of background. So I grew up in Mariposa. So I've got the small county experience working for me. The difference between what you provide now as a county and what you will provide under the drug organized delivery system is pretty significant. I mentioned the biggest one, which is residential. I think that the standard benefits, under the drug Medi-Cal program today are outpatient, intensive outpatient, detoxification, narcotic treatment services, and perinatal residential treatment. That's the bare minimum of what state plan counties such as yourself have to provide. If you go into the drug Medi-Cal ODS system, you are not only doing all of those, but you are adding partial hospitalization, withdrawal management, recovery services, case management, physician consultation, additional medication-assisted treatment, and then residential treatment, which, as I said before, was really kind of one of the biggest changes that the ODS system brought to this benefit. I want to stress that counties voluntarily opt into this waiver and into this benefit. So you as a board of supervisors are in no way being forced by the state to do this. I think this is very much at the county's option, but also I think, speaking from where I used to sit at the department, really want to kind of highlight the fact that patients under this optional program have so many more treatment options and availability to them that is otherwise not. And so I think it was always the intent of both the state and the federal government, as well as the counties that have gone in first, is that this is something that is really about working within local jurisdictions to find solutions for populations that have been traditionally left out of more robust treatment. Obviously, I know that there was conversation about this in the stakeholder meetings that I was able to attend, is the local provider networks are certainly established in both your county and in some of the surrounding counties. And I think that, the partnership option or the county-led ODS option require you to have to contract with providers that are outside of your county borders. And that would be true no matter which option you choose. But I think that, there's certainly an immediate base of providers that you have been working with that would be a part of this new ODS model, whichever one you choose. Obviously, there are new evidence-based practices and assessments that you have to do for patients we are attempting under this ODS model to increase your local control and accountability for these services, right? Because the contract that you would enter into would be between you, the state, and the federal government. So they are kind of three-way contracts. And obviously, you would still retain the ability under the ODS model to kind of propose and negotiate your own county-specific, both providers as well as rates. Before I kind of finish and take questions, I wanted to give you an example of a small county. It's obviously bigger than Lake, but Marin County, and I liked to use them when I was trying to talk to other counties about ODS. They, in the first year, they were one of the first counties to implement the ODS program on their own. And in their first year of operation, their total expenditures for services was $3.9 million total. So all services for those patients that they treated added up to $3.9 million. The federal funds that were drawn down for those services was $3.1 million. And the state general fund added another $395,000. So if you're really good at math, you're like, wow, it doesn't sound like Marin County put in that much. And you are correct. Marin put in about $457,000 and served 825 patients total who used $3.9 million worth of services, but the county's share was only $457,000. And so that is where I think the magic, right, of running a really kind of aggressive program that is built heavily leveraged on federal funds, using the state general fund to the advantage and preserving as much as possible the county funds for other obligations and other programs, other wraparound services. Really wanted to kind of just demonstrate that that is the kind of magnification that you would see that I talk about when you talk about federal funds. And then we get to the partnership model. So we implemented the ODS program in the state of California, and counties opted in. Some came in first phases, some came in second phases. And then there were a few counties, all small northern rural counties, that approached Partnership Health Plan and said, hey, we would like to have you, Partnership, operate this on our behalf. And so I left the state and the department before that was implemented. So I will obviously defer to Mark on the details, but essentially there was an interest and helping from Partnership, understanding that these smaller counties didn't want to recreate the wheel. 7 or at the original time, 8 different wheels didn't need to be created. And so Partnership stepped in and said, we will do this on your behalf and handle the compliance and the provider contracting in the network. I think what I would like to say as you kind of weigh the two different options, there are obviously compliance issues, right, that you need to be mindful of. Those are not insignificant, and corrective action plans from the state either come to the county directly to be handled, or in some cases under the partnership model, they go to Partnership, and then counties have to kind of work under that larger kind of structure that the plan has done. I think that you should always be mindful of the fact that no matter which option you choose, the county cannot shirk its fiscal obligations, right? You, under the realignment deal and under Proposition 30, as a county have agreed to pay for certain services for both pediatric and adult populations. And so those obligations do not go away under either model. And I think that, Mark can obviously, if you have questions about the financing under the partnership model versus the financing under a county-led ODS model, ultimately, they do require you to be paying providers and being reconciled to cost, which is just how you are set up as a county today. I think that, you know, there is something to be said about making sure that you don't break any of the existing either services or provider capacity that you currently have in your county. You know, you have a rich set of providers, actually very well-established providers today, but you need to be mindful that in a change of any kind with new contracts, different financing arrangements, referral patterns, and making sure that your residents are not necessarily having to travel further than necessary. You just need to think about some of the downstream impacts that even if a patient goes into a residential placement, say down in Sacramento or down in the Bay Area, you want them to be able to, upon completion of their treatment down there and stepping out of that intensive treatment into more regular outpatient services, you need to make sure that they are being kind of repatriated back to their community where their support network or their family or their jobs are, and that they're not necessarily being placed out of county and having a hard time getting back. And so I would just say that those are some of the kind of operational policy issues that I wanted to make sure that you thought about. And then lastly, I will just open it up for questions. I know I tried to be very high level, but if you have questions, I'm happy to entertain them now or wait for the larger presentations to complete.
Yeah, we'll continue forward and then ask questions. Okay. Yeah. So with that, is that the next person, is that Mark? Yes. All right, Mark.
Thank you. I believe we submitted a PowerPoint. Can that be put up?
Yes, well, I checked with Matthew. He said he always comes to the rescue.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to thank Todd and his staff in April and the Lake County Behavioral Health team. First of all, for endeavoring to take this on and to do it so thoughtfully. I know they've had a series of stakeholder groups. I can think of no better person to consult with than actually Jennifer Kent on this matter. So the thoughtfulness in which the behavioral health team has taken this on, I think is really excellent. So I just want to start with that. And then can we go to the next slide? So just to level set real quickly, Partnership Health Plan is the managed care plan, Medi-Cal managed care plan for 14 Northern California counties. We're a nonprofit, a public nonprofit. We were created by each Board of Supervisors in those 14 counties where they voted to create a county organized health system in order to improve healthcare access by their Medi-Cal residents in their county and to create a stronger network of care. As it relates to Lake County, I believe it was about 2013 when you guys joined Partnership Health Plan. Next slide. I'm gonna skip this slide because I think Jennifer did an excellent job describing what a drug Medi-Cal organized delivery system is. So let's go to the next slide. So what is the regional model? So as Jennifer indicated, counties can choose to opt into this enhanced drug treatment benefit. And in our 14 counties, 3 of them have on their own. That's Marin, Napa, and Yolo. And then these 7 counties here on this slide are the ones who decided to join the regional model with partnership. And what the regional model really is, it is a 3-way agreement between the state, the counties, and Partnership Health Plan. And that 3-way agreement really defines what our roles and responsibilities are. Next slide. So in this agreement, Partnership Health Plan really bears a lot of the administrative burdens for the provider contracting, the screening and enrollment, the credentialing, the network management, utilization management. We manage a 24/7 access line. We endeavor to do all the compliance-related activities, if there's corrective action plans or audits, EQRO audits. We create the grievance and appeal system that we manage, and then we do those annual financial reconciliations that Jennifer alluded to. Meanwhile, just to say real quickly, the counties, their responsibility, quite frankly, is to oversee us, to ensure that we are meeting those obligations that they have delegated to us. We're meeting those responsibilities. And they work in partnership with us to ensure that collectively we're meeting all those requirements. So that's kind of how we delegate the responsibilities in this regional model. Next slide. So Jennifer did describe the financial model, and when it comes to federal Medicaid land, it's not an easy one to describe, but she did an excellent job. What I want to do is just kind of briefly describe how it works within the regional model, and then on the next slide, when we get there, I'll actually show you an example of that, try to walk through one. But what we do for the regional model and how it works financially is we work with each county to look at their historic utilization and their anticipated utilization, and we come up with what we believe will be the average cost per user per month. This is just our best guess of what we think the costs will be. And then at the end of the year, we will reconcile to see how closely we hit it. It could be over, it could be under, but that's how we work with each county to ensure that we come up with what we think the actual costs will be on average per user per month. And so we invoice the county after we've received a claim from a Medi-Cal beneficiary from that county. We will then invoice the county. The counties will then pay that invoice, and then I'll describe that in further detail. But the invoices will include really three components. It's the per user per month cost, which is our expected actual costs. It will also include, if it is a residential treatment, it will include a room and board cost, and the reason why that is segregated out I'll get to in a moment. And then lastly, a 6.7% admin and quality improvement line that we as Partnership Health Plan charge in order to cover our administration and participation costs, as well as some of our QI activities. So go to the next slide. Okay, so this is where I'm going to attempt to actually run through an example of this fiscal model. And if you're not already scared, I'm going to do my best to keep you locked in here. But let's just run through an example. So let's assume this is Lake County and you are part of the regional model. You have a member, let's call her Wanda. She's been couch surfing for a few months, maybe doing crystal meth. She had a friend that she just saw overdose, and so she is now quite motivated to get treatment. And we want to really take advantage of folks when they're in that moment where they are motivated for treatment. So we have this no wrong door approach where Wanda could call our access line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. Or she could walk into one of our county programs, or she could additionally walk right straight into the door of one of our providers. So there's no wrong door. If she's motivated and she wants to seek services, she can go any of those three ways. So let's just assume in this situation that she is choosing to walk into the door of a residential treatment provider, say there in Lake County. We'll call them Brighter Days Residential Treatment. They do a quick screen with her. They identify that she does indeed need residential treatment. And so she embarks upon treatment there at the Brighter Days Residential Treatment Facility. At the end of the month, that treatment facility sends a claim, submits a claim electronically to Partnership Health Plan. We, in turn, were obligated to pay that claim within 30 days. They're a contracted provider, so we pay it. At the same time, we at Partnership identify that Wanda is a Lake County Medi-Cal beneficiary. So we go forward and invoice Lake County that per user per month that we have already agreed to, plus the room and board cost, because this is residential treatment, and then that 6.7%. The county in turn then pays Partnership that money, and then Partnership, we submit those claims to the state of California. their short oil Medi-Cal system for review and approval, essentially. And basically, the state is looking to make sure that Wanda is an eligible beneficiary, that that provider is a contracted eligible provider, and the service provided was an eligible service. And so once the state actually approves that, there's this thing that they call a certified public expenditure, where they ask Lake County, did you indeed pay this per user per month invoice? And Lake County says, we certify that we made a public expenditure. And so the state submits that claim to the federal government. And as Jennifer indicated, this is the beauty of it all. Depending on who Wanda is, and I'll give you a few examples. If Wanda is a Native American or a tribal member, the federal government will provide 100 cents of every dollar spent on that PUPM. If she is an expansion member under the Affordable Care Act, between the state and the feds, it's nearly 100 cents of every dollar of that PUPM. If she's a traditional Medi-Cal member, a mother with dependent kids, poor mother with dependent children, it might be 50 cents on the dollar. That money then returns back to Lake County. So what we've seen with our 7 counties in the regional model, on average, that per user per month, about 75 to 80 cents of the dollar spent are fronted by the county gets returned by the Fed and the state. And as Jennifer said, that's the secret sauce of trying to bring services in this arena, is really to lean on the federal participation rate. And just to say a few other things, that room and board rate, the federal government does not reimburse for room and board, so that's why we segregate that out in our invoicing, just for simplicity. If you can believe that this is actually simple, we tried to make it simple. So that is kind of the fiscal model and how it works in our regional model. I will say one other caveat, just to further confuse this. In 6 of our 7 regional model counties, the counties are actual outpatient providers as well, so they can actually fill 2 boxes here, both as an SUD provider and as the county who's being invoiced. So, next slide. So one thing the state does is they survey every year, they call treatment perception surveys, the client surveys of folks who participate in the drug Medi-Cal services across the state, basically asking if they're satisfied with services, was it convenient, do they feel respected, was it culturally appropriate, etc. It's compiled by an external firm, Behavioral Health Concepts in UCLA. This is just what we just received recently from them, and I'm happy to report for the regional model, on every measure, we outperform the state average. And I must admit that has very little to do with Partnership Health Plan. It's more of a reflection of our provider network, because this is really the treatment perceptions of our members and how they were treated by our providers. So very proud of our providers, even our county providers, to get that high level of satisfaction back. Next slide. So real quickly, you know, we just wanted to show you, the state calls it penetration rates. I think a better way to really rename that is utilization rates. So if you want to look at what the utilization rates are by age compared to statewide, our regional model compared to statewide, you can see for adolescents we're just a skosh under the statewide average, and several of the other areas were over. Our overall utilization rate is 1.56 compared to just over 1 for the statewide average, which is, I think that's great that we're a little over the state average. I believe we know that the need and the demand is quite higher than that, but just wanted to show you that. Next slide. And this is really utilization rates by race and ethnicity. You can see that amongst whites, we have the highest utilization rates, then second to Native American. On average, it's generally over the statewide average. You know, at first blush, you'd say we should feel good about it, but you know, if you really want to be critical here, I think one has to ask the question, why aren't all different demographic groups as high as the utilization rates as the white group? So I think there's more to be done, and there's more that we need to do around this. Just an FYI. Next slide. And then these are the different categories. As we said, the ACA, as you can see, there are nearly 4,000 utilizing members. About 2/3 are that expansion population or the Affordable Care Act population. And that's how we really get to that nearly 75 or 80 cents of the dollar coming back to the county. It's really based upon these aid codes and their penetration rates. Next slide. And then these are the types of services. As Jennifer indicated, there's a whole continuum of care from outpatient treatment to more significant and acute withdrawal management, residential, et cetera. And you can see that the regional utilization rates, our regional model, compares pretty similarly to the statewide average. And that's really how we can come up with a per user per month rate that pretty near hits the target, because we have expected utilization that we can go off of. Next slide. I guess just lastly, I want to say, at Partnership Health Plan, our goal here is that Lake County will take on the task to ensure that Medi-Cal members in Lake County will have access to the enhanced benefit under the ODS model. And we support it whether Lake County decides to do it on their own, like 3 of our counties, or if they choose to join partnership on the regional model. Our interest here is just to ensure that more of our Medi-Cal members are getting those enhanced access to those enhanced benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And is there a follow-up from, yep, there we go.
If there's no questions for Mark, I'd like to report a little bit on the information that was provided by the stakeholders at the 4 meetings we've had. As I mentioned, we invited 92 participants directly via email to the various stakeholder meetings and asked them to participate in surveys that were distributed as well. I think it's really important to point out that this isn't an opinion of the Mental Health Advisory Board, but really just a reflection of the data that we collected and the input from the stakeholders. So what I'm offering to you today isn't our opinion about what should happen, but only to reflect the data that we collected and that the Behavioral Department collected, because they were the ones sending out the surveys as well. I participated in making sure the distribution was out there, but the information came back from them. And really in the final numbers, it comes down to our final survey with 28 participants responding to the survey. 90% were in favor of working with partnership in the expanded service model. One note that I found very important with all of the discussions we've had and all of the information, it was quite a bit to handle, and I think many of us are still a bit confused about some of the aspects. But one of the things I found was very important is that our people are being taken care of. They're getting services. What this really does is ensures that Medi-Cal pays for more of the services that are already being provided. Is that to say that we're catching every single person who asks for help? No, there's a lot of different factors that come into play with that. Their actual readiness, yes, anybody can have a scare and decide they want services today. Does that mean that they're going to participate in them tomorrow? Not necessarily. But I think the really important point with the whole thing and the reason to really look at opting into the DMC ODS is actually the fact that the federal government and the state government will actually be reimbursing more of the services that we are already working so hard to provide to the clients and the people in our county, which then, of course, allows us to provide more services with the funds that are available countywide. And so I think that's a really important piece that really stuck out to me throughout our conversations about this. I think it's also really important to point out that of the 28 people who replied to the survey, 13 of them were community or contract provider staff. So half of the people who responded were actually providers in our community, many of whom do already have a relationship with Partnership Health Plan, either through their current provision of services for other counties, because some of our agencies in our county are providing services to other counties as well, and for their medical services, because this DMC ODS is specific to the alcohol and other drugs services, the substance use services. So that is over 4 meetings and multiple hours of reviewing videos and making a list. I actually have a 35-page document with every comment in it. I didn't think you guys would appreciate having that, but I'm happy to send it out to you if you do. But that is a pretty quick summary of the conversations we've been having.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any questions about the presentation or to any of the presenters? Supervisor Sabatier?
So, sorry, first question is, are we waiting to talk about the 1915 waiver? Because I know we've been talking about the 1115 waiver right now, but on the agenda it's both. What's the difference is kind of my question that I'm looking for. I know one of them is specialty mental health services, and the other one is drug, Medi-Cal, ODS. Just kind of curious as to, are we being asked to make a decision on both waivers today, and what is the difference between both waivers, as I believe we've only gotten information on the 1115?
This is specific to only substance use disorder services. And April, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, but this has nothing to do with, well, I should say nothing to do with mental health services, but this is specific to our substance use disorder services programs.
So I would like, Jennifer has her hand raised. She probably could do a much thorough explanation than I can.
So to make it really complicated, the drug Medi-Cal organized delivery system waiver is broken between the 1115 and the 1915B waiver. So the bulk of the organized delivery system is in the 1915 waiver, but the element involving the residential treatment is in the 1115. I would say for your purposes, it doesn't matter. It's the financing mechanism and the way in which the federal law works with that particular component involving the residential IMD issues. But the contract and the organized delivery system was transitioned out of the state's old 1115 waiver and is now in the 1915 waiver, along with your specialty mental health services. So they are combined in a single waiver with the state and the federal government.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification. I'll be honest, not 100% sure that that's clarified in my mind, as it's been a learning process to go through this and dive through some information and hopefully finding the right information as I've been preparing for this today. Where does all of this, is this a precursor? I know the 1115 has been around for quite a while. Is the actions we're looking to take today, is it a precursor to, I was just speaking to Director Metcalf about this, is this a precursor to Cal-AIM? Does Cal-AIM, when it goes into effect, have a change on how 1115 will be affected by that? Again, something I haven't completely wrapped my brain around, but I know that there's some major changes, and I believe July 1st, 2023 is when things are supposed to start, though it's more of an option and not an automatic, we have to do it. But I'm just kind of curious as to the impacts of a decision today with the upcoming changes that Cal-AIM look to make in the approach to mental health in the counties.
Sure. So the waiver authorities, both 1115 and 1915, refer to the sections of the Social Security Act at the federal level in which Medicaid programs are allowed to organize themselves. And 1115 waivers are known as demonstration waivers, which means that you go to the federal government as a state and you say, I'd like to show you something. And if you waive certain rules, our demonstration of that thing will save money and do some newfangled innovation things. And we've had a history of several 1115 waivers in the state of California. The ODS waiver was originally in that 1115 waiver. And then a few years ago, I was still at the department and we were transitioning into thinking about our next waiver renewal, and we said we're going to take all of the things out of the 1115 that we can, and we're going to put them in 1915. It is a less burdensome waiver, quite honestly, from a state perspective in terms of federal compliance. Think of a 1915 as a more of a form, like where you're just checking boxes. Yes, I comply with this. Yes, I comply with that. Yes, here is my network, you know, check, check, check. Whereas a demonstration waiver is much more intensive from a, you have to continually show the federal government that you're doing what you said. And so CalAIM is the moniker that we gave the waiver renewal, and it actually went into effect in January of this year. But it is a multi-year series of initiatives and program changes. There will be significant changes in the specialty mental health county-based programs as a result of CalAIM. So there's financing changes, there's medical necessity changes, but the organized delivery system was essentially lifted and shifted from the old waiver into the new waiver, and there was just a couple of modifications, but it is in effect today. And the thing that you are considering as a board is whether you want to take that option and, you know, go from a state plan county into an ODS county, and then you would be working with the state and partnership, you know, or doing county, you know, preparedness, depending on which model you choose. You would be working to hit kind of an agreed upon implementation date, and that could be January. The state typically likes January, but we also like July because that's the start of the fiscal year. So we try to add benefits and make big changes either in January or July of subsequent years.
If I may, I just wanted to add that it is in our best interest to look at July 2023 and looking at the 1915B waiver as the changes or what we're looking to adopt. Regardless of the model, the extensive work that has to be done in preparation, whether it be with partnership in regional or DMC ODS, would require about a year of approval. And so if we're really giving, it is a large multi-level deep system review of information that I myself get pretty lost in. But if we could focus on 1915B and look at July 2023, because that's when payment reform is due to take in effect, and some of the more significant changes with CalAIM.
Okay, I appreciate it. Do you mind if I ask a couple more questions?
Yeah.
One of the highlights to me for the changes is the fact that, and I know Todd's going to look at me with very wide eyes, Director Metcalf, is that it does the contracting for you with the providers. And I think that's something that would help us a whole lot to be able to focus on the actual care of patients and the work that we're doing. Another thing that I'm thinking about is the last week we had a review from EQRO, I believe,
Yes.
that said that you're doing 75% of the work with the patients that we see, or our community members that need our services, and this looks like it might be helping to expand that direct access rather than having to go through you, who then brings them to the provider because you've created contracts and you created that pathway to get them there. Am I understanding that correctly, that it might alleviate some of the services that you are currently rendering by having that direct access to a provider rather than having to go through you, which then has your people working?
Regardless, we are still going to have to contract many of these services out. In April, correct me if I'm wrong. No. But because this will, whichever model we enter into, will afford us expanded and enhanced services and allow us to bill the state to receive funds back, you know, through Medi-Cal, we will still have to contract out. I mean, when I look at this, whichever way we go, I don't really see it changing much, at least from a provider perspective, other than we would be able to provide additional services. We, along with all of the providers.
So if I may, yes, to answer your question, there is an administrative lift that partnership will take with doing the direct provider contracts, but there is also an addition for serving our indigent populations that partnership will not manage, so we will still have to carry separate contracts to provide those services. So in some sense, we will have the resources of partnership to do some of those tasks that we are doing independently now, if we chose the regional model, but it doesn't alleviate us of having to not have separate contracts for those providers or to go outside of the partnership network to meet those additional requirements. So as Jennifer alluded to, we don't get to negate or to not comply with the requirements. So we may have to carry a contract with someone in Southern California to meet the youth residential component. And so partnership, if they don't have that contract, we're still on the fence of making sure that we ensure that.
So it would minimize the number of contracts, or not, it would lower the number of contracts, but not negate the entirety of it. You would still have to do those things on your own if you needed to. And I think that still helps. My last thing is, between the two potential pathways of the waiver, while I see from Dr. Gardner's emails that we all received that there seems to be excitement to aim towards the partnership health, in my opinion, I don't have enough financial understanding on the difference and how it affects your budget. And I know that I'm going to attempt your last name, Mr. Bontrogert. Hopefully I got that right. He had offered to do a financial review, and I would love to see a financial review so that we can compare apples to apples and see which one is going to provide a better service and which one is going to provide us the funding we need to be successful in delivering the services we need. Because I hate to come back a year from now and have Director Metcalf come to us and say, can we please borrow some money? We're not able to provide the services. So that to me is a very sensitive point that I don't have enough information today to be able to say so. And I'd love to see if it's possible to still get that financial review.
And and Mark, I hope, are you still here with us? Yes, I see you. Yep. I think one of the unknowns here is that because the partnership, the regional model is still somewhat new, that they haven't gone through a whole cost settlement process. So I don't, and Mark, please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if they have that information yet.
Mark?
Yeah, thank you. And it's Bontrager, but your pronunciation worked. It was fine. Quite honestly, I don't even know how material the financial piece is, because as Jennifer explained, I think the net, the final result is pretty similar regardless of which way you go. The federal and state participation or reimbursement is going to look similar regardless of model you choose. So I don't see this being a financial decision necessarily. I think it's one of is it significant enough to lower the administrative burdens to choose the regional model, or there's also the loss of some control too doing it that way. And if you have the internal capacity and the wherewithal, then maybe you go to loan. But as far as financing, and I'll defer to Jennifer, I believe what you can pull down from federal and state is going to look similar regardless of model. But I'll defer to Jennifer.
Yeah, I think what I was trying to make clear is that whichever model you choose, be it if you were to do the ODS on your own as a standalone county, you would incur the costs associated with the services for sure. But obviously, as I said, with the Marin example, you can really see how much federal money is made available. But the trade-off is that you may need to have more infrastructure within your county to do those administrative activities, right? So there's going to be some more contracting. You know, there is the 24-hour kind of line in which beneficiaries can get access. You know, there are some administrative things that you would incur, and those come with matching funds, right? Because you as a subsidiary of the state doing Medicaid work would be allowed to have those costs covered by a portion of those by the federal government. But some counties, in choosing the partnership model, have said, we don't want to create that county administrative infrastructure, and we would prefer to have partnership do it on our behalf. You know, as Mark said, there is a cost associated with partnership administering that for you, but that really gets down into the very, very fine pieces of your county financing for what you pay for and support now versus what you would pay partnership to do that. I think generally they probably tend to be the same, but it also just depends on you as a county making a choice as to whether you want to really kind of own your own infrastructure and your own way of administering the program versus letting partnership do it on your behalf. And to be fair, it's partnership in partnership with their own vendor, right? Because I think Beacon does a lot of the actual contracting and provider management issues. Mark's shaking his head.
Yeah, the only role Beacon plays for us is to manage the 24-hour access line. We do the own contracting and that sort of thing.
Thank you for that clarification. So that's kind of the choice that the counties make, but the money should hopefully, if it doesn't net out to be about the same, then there's something wrong.
If I may, I just wanted to add, there is also room for counties to leverage support of county council in developing the contracts with partnership to call out some of those things early on if the regional model is the direction that is chosen.
Can you talk closer to the mic?
Yes, sorry. I'm not used to being asked to talk louder. I apologize. So there is an opportunity for each individual county inside of the regional model to leverage county council to negotiate those contract terms going into partnership in the regional, right? So what that means is when we talk about giving up local control, or we talk about the negotiated rates, or we talk about how counties are involved, right? There is room in the regional model to be able to negotiate those terms and conditions, but it will rely heavily upon each county and their council to really go into this contract negotiation. And Mark, please correct me if I'm wrong, but each county develops their separate contracts, and so we can call out some of the things that if we have concerns with partnership, we can call out some of those special provisions inside of that, correct?
As it relates to the regional model, partnership contracts with those providers directly on behalf of all participating counties. Now, counties might have a separate contract with that provider outside of the regional model if they choose to do so, but as it relates to the regional model, we hold the relationship with the providers. We contract with them on behalf of all 7 counties, and I think that's actually a strength. There's one relationship with the providers, and all of them are seeking significant increases, and so we have to manage that across the network. So we want to both support our providers and also hammer out a good contract with them as well.
Ms. Grant?
Then just for clarity, the overall agreement is essentially one agreement that's entered into for benefit of all the counties. It's not something that allows for leverage by my office or any place else to hammer out unique provisions.
Yeah, that tri-party agreement that I referenced before, it's between the state and the counties in partnership. That was created by the state, and that is kind of as is.
All right.
I guess so. I wasn't clear. I had reviewed some contracts online and I saw that specific counties had negotiated how processes were called out, referrals, different functions. And so I was referring to that, not necessarily our contracts or the contracts with the providers. As you mentioned, that is something that we consider a strength in the regional model. But more importantly, that when we develop a contract with partnership, each county, I review the contract separately. They do call out different provisions for each county. Counties can negotiate the terms of their agreement with partnership. And that's the thing that I'm trying to clarify. Are you saying that counties cannot do that, or they can?
Well, yes, there's nuances to each county, and so we do our darndest to accommodate that when possible.
And that would be what I was referring to as needing our county council for support in that direction.
Thank you. And so with that, I'm not seeing any other questions from the board, so I'll, unless you have something else, Ms. Colfax, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out there was something that this part of this conversation brought up for me. One of the things we did repeatedly hear from our stakeholders, and this is not a bash toward our behavioral health program at all, but really one of the limitations we have here in the county is qualified personnel who can administer and provide services. And one of the things that was brought up repeatedly in our conversations was that being a limiting factor rather than, the capacity the actual capacity of providers available in our county to work on, to administrate these programs, that was really one of the primary concerns, because it's not something really new. It's something that has been going on for a long time. And so being able to focus behavioral health's work on clinicians and providers of services rather than on administrative functions allows us to focus. And that's one of the things, like I said, the stakeholders brought up repeatedly was the manpower behind it. And I agree with what I think, excuse me.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, him. I just resorted to calling you Bruno, I'm sorry. Referred to was that ability of our manpower to focus on where the needs are for our folks here versus being able to have the administrative support of partnership and having them take on the things that can be met elsewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, I know you've heard me talk about the difficulty we have in recruiting, qualified, eligible folks to do this work. And I do just want to say, and that's why we're bringing this to the board, I've been having conversations around this for the last 5+ years. And a lot of things have changed over the last 5 years around the 1115 and 1915B waivers. And this is not about behavioral services having control over anything. This is about ensuring that we are providing the best services we can and maximizing whatever funding is available to provide those services. And so we are not attached to any particular model. We just want to make sure we're making an informed decision and to ensure that our community gets the services and programs that they need and deserve. Because as we all know, substance use disorders are a major issue in this county. And so we're looking at this as an opportunity, whichever way we go, to be able to expand and enhance the services that we are already providing and hopefully adding more.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And thank you for bringing a very robust presentation that has both sides of the spectrum that give us a real balanced and informed, presentation that helps us to understand both. I know some of it's confusing, even though I thought I knew coming into it, I knew about it. Yeah, but because now there's different things that mean the same thing, like regional and partnership. And so I'm just, yeah. So anyhow, if there's no more questions, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the chambers that'd like to say anything about this? And then, so come on up and state your name for the record. Joan, you'll be next. Joan, you'll be next.
Hi, I'm Lori Carter-Runyon, Hilltop Recovery Services. Sometimes they're devil's advocate. First, I'd like to say, I spent a lot of years battling behavioral health, and then I've spent a lot of recent years working with them and repairing the relationships to provide services in this community. But I'm a provider for both, the regional model, partnership, and Lake County Behavioral Health. So I currently have 12 residents in partnership, and I'm waiting for my women's beds to expand to be able to have partnerships. So I have 12. I have 4 Lake County resident beds at the moment. The other funding that I get is through Adventist Health, probation, tribal health. I seek other funding sources because there's not enough adequate funding for placement. I have probably 10 men on screenings in my book right now waiting for beds for placements that I can't obtain funding for. My experience through COVID was that's when we went live for the regional model. We had a lot of support, a lot of communication. We do quality service review meetings every other month. Well, no, we do provider meetings every other month, and then we do quality assurance reviews with only providers and outside resources for partnership on a regular basis. The support that we've gotten, the infrastructure. So and Beacon doesn't have to be the one that calls, they have the No Wrong Door, which I've also been working with April on our 4 beds. We've just recently started that, but still it's only 4 beds. They're allowed to call us. Like they said, they can come in anywhere. We do our screenings. We bring them in. We set up the times for them to come in. We can assess them if they need to go to a lower level of care or a higher level of care. We can actually, within the network, call other providers and let them know that they need, that they might need to go to, say, Waterfront, which is in Humboldt, because they have incidental medical services. This is all a part of the existing infrastructure that Partnership has in place with their contracts for the 7 counties. So right now, anybody that calls that's in the 7 counties can go to any of those providers in the 7 counties. It doesn't limit it. Lake County joining the waiver under regional model means that the existing contract providers they have are accessible for anybody in Lake County. Now, again, regional model or ODS, it doesn't affect Hilltop personally, and I've been, again, like their devil's advocate. It's about services. And the thing is, without a Lake County contract before, I've survived. Hilltop has survived. It's, it really is the fact that we don't capture the services that we need for Lake County residents in the residential, in residential care. Our intensive outpatient, unfortunately, it's too small right now since COVID. We used to have a lot more, access to services there in the continuum. Having the residential care for Lake County residents, being able to have them in the intensive outpatient and outpatient to follow through the continuum is going to increase success rates. That's not available in this community right now, except for a limited number. And that's what going regional model, who has the existing infrastructure, I feel would best provide for our community. And again, it doesn't affect, I contract with them, I contract with regional model, I contract with other providers. I can contract with Marin County. They've offered, other counties have offered. It's really about what our county needs. And I personally feel that the regional model has shown that they have the existing infrastructure and the network that they've helped. They do their quality assurance. They come in for their, for the visits, and when we struggle with something, they communicate with us, and they're on top of it. They did have a recent situation where their network system went down, and they stayed in contact with us the whole time. They worked through it. They were calling us regularly to see how things were. They provided technical assistance when we didn't know how to do things, and it's been really good because they have a large network. We're working with a smaller county agency that doesn't have enough people to address it. They do their best to provide the services, but it's not big enough. And the need is bigger and greater than what we have available. Even for us as providers, we don't have the need. We don't have the services. We don't have enough to meet the need of our community. And so having the option to go to other counties, and again, the contracts already exist. That network, that structure already exists. They have the detox programs, they have the incidental medical services, they have the withdrawal management. We work with other providers we actually work with other providers to address the methadone when they're tapering for methadone or coming into this community on methadone, which we don't have a provider in Lake County for methadone. So the providers we work from in Solano County actually assist us in getting the methadone for the month for the individuals that are in treatment. It's all part of that existing network that exists, along with the fact that Partnership has partnership transport services, which is amazing. You call up anywhere that you're in those 7 counties and you schedule a ride, you let them know that it is necessary to get them to the appointment or they will lose their bed placement, and they will make it happen quickly. It's all part of that existing infrastructure they have. And that's actually an expanded service that doesn't even have to do with the 1115 waiver. That's something Partnership does. So again, I mean, I work with Lake County Behavioral Health. We have good working relationships. I work with Partnership, and my concern is the need of the community, and that's why I support the regional model. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Joan, did you want to come up? I seen you got up earlier.
Joan Moss. I am not an expert, but I wanted to say that one of my doctors, when he says hello and makes an appointment, he says, "We no longer have Partnership Health." And I was in his office and I said, "Why have you disconnected from Partnership Health?" He said, "Simply, they take too long." I mean, he didn't really go into it. But I'm wondering, this was for a totally different kind of medical care, but if you sign it and you try it, you don't like it, can you get out of it? That was my question, because you just never know what might happen.
Thank you, Joan. Go ahead, April.
I would like to ask Mark to respond to that, because it's been my understanding that counties can negotiate a term date if they were to go into the regional model. So an example would be that they could try it out for 2 years. And I would like for Mark to provide feedback.
Yeah, I mean, it's my understanding that if a county would choose to opt out, they can do so. We haven't had that yet since we've gone live, but that's certainly possible. This is not a till death do us part kind of an arrangement. So there are some opportunities there, but I would imagine that one requirement would be that it's a full fiscal year, or so we can go through a full reconciliation if someone would choose to opt out.
Thank you.
But of course, our contract boilerplate language does have a termination clause, which I would advocate that we would incorporate into a contract with Partnership Health Plan. And Ms. Grant, correct me if I'm wrong.
Ms. Grant.
Yes, the county tends to favor several of its own standard contract provisions.
Thank you. All right, if there's anyone else that has public comment, yes, come on up. And then, Zach, you can follow Dr. Gardner.
Good morning, supervisors and staff. Bob Gardner from Lucerne. I would just encourage the board to support and participate in ODS. The enhanced services are critical. They're going to save lives. They're going to help our economy. That part is hopefully a no-brainer. The part about who does the administration, the Partnership Health comment, I've served on their board as an appointed representative from our county. These guys are the most professional, well-organized, efficient group I've ever been in partnership with, I've ever worked with. They take 2/3 of the people in our county, 2 out of 3 people, they're in charge of the physical and mental part. It just seems sensible they would be in charge of the substance abuse part. Hard to separate people. As Jennifer Kent said about recreating the wheel, this is a lot of work. We're not Marin County where we have people from the city, we have this incredibly sophisticated labor pool. We have people, we're a sequestered little county. It's hard, I forget the percentage of jobs in behavioral health that are empty now. We don't have the pool to draw from. This is something that's, and not that I don't love you guys, you do a good job. This is way over the heads of a small local government agency. And I think it's important to trust the opinions of the local health professionals. The statistics you said, I had the same, I had a open survey. I got about 30 back. They were the health professionals. I didn't have anybody who wanted local government controlling this waiver. Everybody wanted partnership. They had good experiences with partnership. Not that government doesn't do good jobs, but I just believe established professional public nonprofits that have statewide business are going to do a better job.
Sure, 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Zachary Ray, enrolled member at Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians. I'm also the executive director for California Tribal TANF Partnership, administered by Robinson Rancheria. We're the 4th largest Native American social services program in the nation, servicing 17 counties in Northern California, with our central office being here in Lake County. Behavioral health is a major issue that we see all across the board. The behavioral health department here is severely understaffed and underfunded. We're trying to hire a behavioral health manager for our program, and it's extremely difficult with them being housed here in Lake County. Whichever provider you end up going with, I would implore you to make sure that we have additional funding for our behavioral health department and make sure that we have more licensed professionals that are able to assist not only our participants in our communities, but all of our community members here, because mental health is a serious issue. All of the other symptoms that we see from substance abuse, domestic violence, those are all stemming from mental health issues that are going undiagnosed and untreated. And we need more resources in our community. And so whichever decision you go with, please make sure that we get more resources for our community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Anyone else in the chambers that has any comments on this? And I'll bring it to the Zoom room. Attendees, Victoria Kelly. You can unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, Victoria Kelly with Redwood Community Services. I first want to start and say thank you to Todd and April and the team at Lake County Behavioral Health. This stakeholder process and the individual meetings with providers, I know have been intense and difficult at times, but also much needed. There was some needed repairing and communication that occurred that I really just appreciate your willingness to forge through with us, and it has felt good to kind of get through that. As a provider of said services in Lake County, we have been watching and participating in the stakeholder conversations with intensity around what's going to happen. We are a provider for partnership in other counties and do serve other counties through the partnership regional model, and have had positive work and success with the women that we've served. And as much as I have seen the growth in our relationships with Lake County Behavioral Health through this time, I do think for RCS, we are hopeful that the board and the Lake County Behavioral Health team really sees the positives in shifting over to a partnership regional model ODS system, and moves us forward into that system delivery to engage and engage more Medi-Cal beneficiaries in the community, serving more, increasing access to services, and potentially even looking at opportunities to grow in-county services, so people don't have to leave our county to get much needed services, because when they leave, when they go, there's an example about going to out of county, treatment, and then having to come back, and coming back and not having the platform of services and the outpatient intensive services that are necessary to support recovery. It's not a model that's sustainable for our community. And so I hope that with moving into the partnership ODS waiver, we can then look at shifting the focus off administrative processes and looking at opportunities to actually grow services in county that are needed for our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. I'm not seeing any other hands up in the Zoom room, so I'll close public input and bring it back to the board for action and either further discussion or action. Supervisors, I'll have Vice Chair Scott go, and then since you've talked already.
Well, with everything we've heard and everything we know about behavioral health, we need to definitely be looking at ways to increase access for our community members. We know behavioral health is the keystone that's going to be solving lots of issues that we have here in our community. We do know we have a capacity issue with behavioral health here in Lake County, and I think we need to be looking at ways to broaden our resources. So I'm in support of going for the regional model.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Thank you. So quick question. Got the answer that there's not much of a financial difference between one way or another, but the difference between where we are today and what resources we're drawing from federal and state, it almost sounded like there will be a new influx of potential resources. Is it the same resources? Is it just that we lose a little bit of the control of those resources by working with Partnership Health and providing them that percentage? Can you describe the difference between what we're doing right now and what the changes would be for you? Again, I want to make sure that financially we're making the right decision, because it sounds to me like the services would definitely potentially benefit from working in a regional way and having access to the network that Partnership has and the administrative asset that Partnership would offer us. But I want to make sure financially where we're coming from and where we're going, what the difference would be.
I'm hoping that Mark and Jennifer, I see they're still here. I believe if we move into the regional model, we will lose some control. I know most notably around rate setting that it'd be more of a burden to collaboratively among the regional counties negotiate higher rates. The way we're doing it now, we would, if we contracted directly with the state, we would have a little more flexibility around that, but I'm hoping that Jennifer and Mark might help me out there.
Sure.
I don't want to misquote or misspeak.
Sure. So the services that we both talked about, both Mark and I, in terms of the additional benefits that are available under the ODS system, notably residential, but there's also recovery services, additional MAT, physician consultation, intensive outpatient treatment. Those are services today that if you provide them, you do not get federal matching funds for those. To the extent that you move into ODS, the state has said that they will pay for the costs associated with residential and IoT. The only thing that you have to pay for in the new model is the room and board, right? Medicaid funds cannot be used for that. So you actually are in a potential place in which things that you have been paying for today using your substance abuse block grant or other lines of funding, those can be freed up because the federal government will be providing those in support. I think that the concern around contracts, as Director Metcalf referenced, partnership would be taking that on. And this is where it really is a local decision. Do you want to have someone negotiating those contracts and those rates on your behalf because you think that is administratively easier? Or do you really want to retain that control as a local county function? And so I can say that there are pluses and minuses to both options. I know that 7 counties have chosen within the partnership model to have partnership administer that on their behalf, but other counties, so Napa, Marin, and Yolo have said, nope, we're good, we want to do it anyway, even though we're in the partnership, we want to run our own thing. And so this really is a, how much of it do you want to be owned and controlled by your local county and by your staff, versus how much do you want to cede to partnership? And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just a choice that you are being asked to make.
And I'd like to clarify my question again. The resources that we're currently obtaining from the state and federal, do we get a new influx by waiving this, is what I'm hearing? Okay, so it's just a change of operations, but also another benefit is that you get to access some extra funds. Okay.
Correct.
One last question. It was brought up by, I believe, the Hilltop Recovery public comment that we received about the transport. I know that we've been dealing with transports a whole lot and that we do not get repaid. There is no code to submit for repayment of the transports. Will that help us in that, or is that completely separate?
Well, they're actually one and the same. Again, this is just speaking to our substance use disorder services clients. Those interfacility transfers to which you're referring mostly pertain to our mental health clients. But you are correct, and you've heard me say before, we do not get reimbursed for staff time to transport clients.
But if you happen to transport substance abuse folks today, you would struggle to get repaid, but through this, there may be that extra added benefit.
Yes, in the regional
I think
model,
is an awesome add-on in comparison to right now what we have. So,
oh yeah,
I wanted to ask that question, and thank you for the answer.
Supervisor Pyska?
So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to be leveraging our resources and having the access with the regional approach. But can you, Director Metcalf, just speak on how that will affect the capacity in your department?
Well, I'm hoping it will allow us at least more access to more services amongst the other counties that are part of this model.
Right, but with your staff that you have currently and their workload.
We don't see, and April, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't see that it would be a major impact to us.
Okay.
No, may I comment?
Yes.
So, something that wasn't mentioned as far as the entitlement and services that become available to counties, regardless of the model, is case management. And case management is something about collaboration and really coordination of care, right? So one of the perspectives is that we now get paid for our time in communicating and coordinating placements as they transition through what is referenced as a golden thread. So when they move in and out through levels of care, right? So when it comes to capacity issues within our department, I don't see it having a negative impact on our ability to retain the staff that we have. I see it as expanding resources and leveraging other resources with others providing case management services. So partnership can provide case management and their case management frameworks, or counties can locally develop case management. So there is a potential to increase capacity within our department to expand on case management or outpatient services. It is also imperative that we as a county collaborate with our partners to ensure that we are part of that continuum of care, so that when they're referred to Hilltop or to another regional county for residential placement, that they come back to our services or to another provider of that same level of care inside of our county, right? So I think that it relieves a little bit in that we leverage other resources with providing those services, but it also increases our ability to expand capacity in those direct services that we're wanting to provide.
Great, thank you.
And Elise had her hand up, Elise Jones, and I know Director Metcalf, you had mentioned she might have some input. So Elise, if you can unmute and give your insight.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize in advance for any background noise. I'm actually supposed to be off sick today. I was up all night with my son. However, I wanted to make a couple of points, and last week when we presented on the external quality review report, I want to clarify that that was specifically for a mental health program. And by joining the waiver, this is another step towards parity between mental health and SUD services, and hopefully parity as a whole with healthcare. And so parity continues to me to be a significant driving force with regard to the expansion and provision of services. My dream, I guess I'll digress a little bit, is that behavioral health, it has the same reimbursable rate and the same clout, for lack of a better way of putting it, as any other type of healthcare. Now, mental health is subject to network adequacy standards, which means that we must maintain a certain level of full-time equivalent employees to meet what the federal government has determined to be the needs of our community. Now, the ways by which they conduct that assessment are somewhat arcane and unknown to me, I'll be honest. However, they do come down and they say, this is what you must have, and they evaluate and they prescribe the FTE of psychiatry and other staff that we have to meet those network adequacy standards, and we are held liable by the federal government if we don't meet that. By joining the ODS waiver, we are also now subject to the EQRO requirement and also to these network adequacy standards. So that would be true regardless of the model into which we went. And therefore, regardless, we would still be held to the same standard of NACT of having so many FTE for various levels of care. Regardless, we would be obligated to maintain that and to provide that. Again, the only significant difference here, as has been iterated, is that we maintain local control of those resources and have more of a hand in developing and growing those local resources. And I am incredibly proud of our department for having been able to provide uncovered services under the traditional DMC plan through creative use of our grant funds. And so either way, it's an incredible opportunity, but I did want to point out that we are beholden to those same NAC standards regardless of the model in which we join. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. With that, it looks like we're at a point where we can take action. And from what I understand, approved joining the ODS is its own separate. And then following that would be which model we go with following. So, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve joining the organized delivery system.
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then item B, vote on joining either DMC ODS or regional model ODS.
Mr. Chair, I move to join the regional model ODS.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And so that means we're now going in the direction with the regional model, and we'll look forward to seeing how that goes. And thank you for your presentation. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. I know this is very complicated. It's been equally complicated for us as well. So we appreciate your support in this. And yes, there will be updates to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it looks like the 11:30 is a little pushed back. We are at a point where we can take a lunch break and come back at noon. Are we?
One.
Or you want to take one at 1?
Actually, in the note I just passed you, I misstated. The Public Works Director is perfectly good with coming back in the afternoon if you want to take a break now, as are the 11:30 and noon items, because those are with staff, so.
Okay.
But it's up to you. you're running quite a bit behind, so.
Yeah, I was just helping you with time. You said take a break and come back at noon.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
It's like, that's 5 minutes.
I meant, I'm
been a
still
long
thinking
morning.
ODS and all that.
Vending machine.
Yeah.
All these acronyms kind of confuse me, sorry. So what we'll do is we will take a lunch break, because it's 12, come back at 1, and continue on with our 1045 6.7 item.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if we could just clarify with Matthew listening, he can post a note so that any public that lands in Zoom would see it. And so would you like the note to say that the board will resume at 1 and take up the 6.7 agenda item? Would that be what you plan to do next?
That would be great.
Okay. And so then Carolyn, I imagine you can hear me as well, or Kim, you're here, Kim and Johanna. Let's put a sign on the boardroom chambers door as well. Okay?
All right, with that, we will take our lunch break and see you back at 1 p.m. to continue on.